Welcome to an honest vlog on Teton and Yellowstone National Parks. My first big tip for you is to have a plan. Teton and Yellowstone are like adult wonderlands. Even if you don't have a plan, it's probably still going to be good. It just might be better if you have a plan. Our goal was to see as much wildlife as possible. That is, as many bears and as many wolves as possible specifically, in addition to getting as many good pictures as we could. So what I did was I researched and researched. That's what I typically do until I felt reasonably sure I could maximize my chances of doing that. And then our plan was that we would see as many spots as we could superficially, as well as get a deeper look at the park by way of doing at least one hike per day. And we were there for 3 full days and 2 half days. This is one of the first things you'll see as you arrive in Teton. It's great. Then you're going to force your girlfriend to be on camera. It's just as great. And then you're going to drive to Yellowstone. A lot of times, your first day goes to just driving, and I didn't want that. Hayden Valley was on the way to our campsite, and we arrived there in the early evening. And lo and behold, we got our first bear at about 500 yards. Brand new, never been used tents can be bought on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist because people are constantly buying that stuff and never using it. So that's what we did. Time for dinner, one of the best parts of this whole trip. This is Lamar Valley. This place is slightly misrepresented. You can see tons of wildlife here. With that said, primarily in the mornings and the evenings. Don't spend all day here. This place is absolutely huge. And for that reason, you will likely need expensive equipment to see the wildlife, although not necessarily. Here we're looking at wolves, and they're probably at 1,000 yards. This is a bison jam. Personally, I think this is one of the more fun things at Yellowstone, or at least charming. Bison are going to cross the road, and you're going to have to wait for them. This is where you're going to actually have good bear encounters. It's along the side of the road just past the Tower Falls area. We got a great view of this black bear in person, much better than the iPhone portrays. This is Blacktail Plateau Drive. I had never done this before, but this was super cool. We saw a bunch of bison and had an absolutely perfect bear encounter. My second big tip for you is to assign roles. It's not always that great to have to do everything yourself. My role was to plan, and I assigned Anna food. That's what works best for us. She's got a grill that she puts in the back of her car, which allows us to not have to go to restaurants to eat. Restaurants are oftentimes far away in Yellowstone. This is Anna's 4-day meal plan, and it's why I spend so much time planning. This and everything else just makes everything so comfortable and nice. I just have to deliver the goods. So the pressure is on, and right around the corner was one of the best bear experiences I've ever had. What's not immediately apparent in this video is that in between us and the bear was a ravine, increasing the amount of land space between us and it, but not the amount of perceived space. So we were able to get some great pictures. This is from a couple years ago, yet another bear at midday, just foraging in the brush right alongside the road. And here we are at Mammoth Hot Springs. It's got a cool thermal area and a bunch of elk in the little town. I will say though, that this is one of the few popular areas that I do consider skippable. It'll be a cool, fun thing for you to do, but it's one of the first things I'll take off the to-do list if I have other things that I want to see. Here we went on a hike to Grizzly Lake. We didn't actually make it all the way. Keep in mind that Yellowstone is at about 8,500 feet of elevation, and not all the members of your party might be used to that. So we bought these little cans of oxygen, and that helped, but it was still pretty hard for my mom, for instance, who's in her mid-70s. So you might have to plan for that. This is Norris Geyser Basin. It's one of the cooler thermal areas. Yet another little warning here. I will say that thermal areas do get boring after a while, okay? Once you've seen a couple of them, you've kind of seen them all. So Yellowstone has a ton of stuff to offer, and unless this is really your thing, don't spend all of your time at these thermal areas, although they are cool and you should see a couple of them. All right, now we're gonna make dinner again. This is the only meal that we eat in camp. I prefer to do it that way because Yellowstone is so big. It's 2.2 million acres. And for that reason, for you to see it all, you have to be on the road as much as possible. Here we are at the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. In past years, we've kind of just shown up here when we show up, typically in the afternoon. And this year, I made a point of getting here right at sunrise. And that really paid off because the colors were so much more dramatic and sharper. It just made the experience significantly better. In past years, it's been okay, but somewhat mediocre to be totally honest with you, because all of these colors and distinctions have been somewhat washed out by the midday sun. This was much better. Hi. Back in Hayden Valley in the morning. It's, I think, 8 in the morning or so. We're here to see the wildlife. We didn't get skunked, but we didn't see everything that we wanted to see. It's the first time that's ever happened to me at Hayden, but I had a great birthday breakfast. Moose are not that common in Yellowstone, but this trip we saw two. Now this is one of the coolest thermal areas in Yellowstone. It's the Mud Volcano area. It's cool, dramatic, and noisy. Wow. And this is my third and final big tip. It's be flexible, seize the opportunity. I actually passed up this mother and her cub to do another activity in hopes of seeing even closer up bears. But I realized my mistake after about 30 minutes and rushed back here. And I was so glad that I did. Everyone really liked seeing these bears. Here we're doing another hike. This one turned out to be okay. It wasn't great, but I just kind of like randomly choose my hikes when I go to Yellowstone. And maybe when I'm old, I will have done every single one of them. One thing I want to talk to you about here is what you're seeing right now, and that's the extreme amount of downed logs that are flooding our national parks. I think this sucks. I hate this. I don't know what exactly the national park can do about it, but some of these trails look as if they're just like a logging trail, basically. But we were rewarded at the end with a nice view. Ah, and now the pièce de la résistance for most people going to Yellowstone. It is the Old Faithful. And this, just like Hayden Valley and Lamar Valley, is yet another place that I think you should not stay at forever. Once you see Old Faithful go off and you've walked around the grounds, I think you should get out of there and see other stuff. It's cool, but it's not more than what it is. Now, this is something I think you should definitely do. This is the Grand Prismatic Spring Overlook Trail. Instead of going down to the Grand Prismatic Spring, where you're going to see very, very little because of lack of perspective, you should go to the Fairy Falls Trail and go to the overlook of the Grand Prismatic Spring and see this instead. Here comes two of my favorite pictures of the whole trip. All right, now we're finally in Teton. This is Oxbow Bend. It's in the morning. Now I'm going to give you my final warning. This is the picture we took here this morning, and I'm going to show you one I took here 4 years ago, which is a little bit more common. That is Oxbow Bend covered in smoke. If you go here in the fall, which is when we always do it, there is a very good chance that the area will be covered in smoke. That's just a reality of Yellowstone and Teton in the fall. I hear tons of people talk about how great it is in the fall, but I don't hear that many people emphasizing the reality of the smoke. Now, this is Jenny Lake in the morning, which is when you should go there. Maybe one of the prettiest places there is. Right on par with Jenny Lake in the morning is Taggart Lake in the morning. Holy smokes, it's pretty. This is another reference to the power of the plan. The mountains are not nearly as beautiful to photograph midday, and this is an example of that. If you want to get good pictures, make sure you're where you want to be in the morning or in the evening.
It's just too washed out right now. It's pretty for what it is, you know?
Yeah. Super good dinner again. This just makes things so much nicer. Next morning, we're at Schwabacher Landing. This is like the premier place for sunrise pictures, as you can see from the number of people here. Just a tip, if you are in an RV, you will have to get here very early because the number of cars is just immense and the driving space is relatively narrow. If Schwabacher Landing is just too packed with people, about a mile away, right above Schwabacher, is this turnout. I believe it's called Teton Turnout. It's awesome. All right, here we go, Mormon Row. I got a couple of pictures I liked here, but these pictures that you're seeing seem to be harder and harder to come by with each successive year. And that's because there always seem to be wedding photographers with their subjects right up next to the buildings or the barn. I don't know what can be done about that, but I will say that these unobstructed pictures of the buildings at Mormon Row do seem to be more and more difficult to come by with each passing year. Last but not least, we are at the Phelps Lake Trailhead. It is about 7 a.m., but before we head out, we have to eat breakfast, and this will keep us sustained and feeling good throughout the rest of the day. We're going to my very favorite spot in Teton National Park. I usually go the Death Canyon Trail route. Today we're doing the Phelps Lake route, and it's just so, so beautiful.
Even if you had
And finally, one more reference to the plan. This is why you always show up early, because this is a line of cars just waiting to park. And to clarify, they're waiting for people to get back from a several hour long activity.